Hi, this is 𝗬𝗏𝗀, and welcome to Thundertown. Alright, so here we go, the objective. So the objective of this entire episode is to build the Maximus Tire and Rubber Company. And you can see it right here. This is the ultimate final objective of the build today. So I started off with this little area right along the cliffside and placed one of these plastics factories and called it the Maximus Tire Company. I placed in some small warehouses, and I'm storing, oil and petroleum here for, so that it can make plastics. Plastics, rubber, whatever, right? So here I'm putting in a railroad. This is part of my road train rail network. And off screen, over the other side of the mountains, there's an oil drilling facility, and it brings all the oil in by train. So here we go. I decided I had to cover everything again with all of the rusty buildings and assets. So over the top of these functioning buildings, I'm putting a facade. The rusty water towers going over these oil storage tanks. And then to the right here, you can see that I put a lot of large warehouses sort of clipped together. And then I found these really cool industrial buildings and decided I was going to make the entire building out of these and cover the existing, modern looking buildings. So, the ultimate goal here is to have this tire and rubber company that's run and owned by we're going to start calling him the Emperor Maximus. And the Maximus family, maybe his name. I was thinking his name might be Maximus. Of course, that does sound a little pro wrestling. You know what I mean? It's a little out there. So I'm covering all the spots where these cars come in and park, because the buildings underneath are functional. Okay, the Naptha cracker plant. So that's another one of the factories in the game, and I put a couple of these other smaller factories that do processing of oil or petroleum underneath here, and then I decided I was going to clip a few more of these really cool warehouse buildings together, or off the industrial buildings, and got all the color to match. And I brought in some of the buildings you saw in the previous build over here just behind that from the waterworks. And of course, here we go, covering up everything with these rusty water tanks. So it really is amazing if you reshape these things and constantly make them taller, shorter, bigger, more round. You can cover up pretty much every single round water tank or something with them. And then here's where I was trying to make this sort of oblong-shaped one, and I finally got it. I ended up using two and then clipping them together like this. And then this is a smokestack on its side that I used in order to cover this, tank that's in here, this gas tank. I like the concrete look of the smokestack. So with three actual factories inside here, this does generate quite a bit of traffic also. Again, a little bit of detail goes a long way. A lot of these little water tanks on the roofs, and again, the little vents with the spinning pieces, making it feel more alive here. So when this factory's functioning, the steam comes out of there. It turns on and off. So I put a little vent there so it doesn't look like it's just coming through the roof of the building. these vents are really cool. I covered up the one that actually puts out steam, and then just put them on the other two, even though these are not going to leave out steam. And again, some of these wonderful big train doors. Any place where vehicles are entering the building, I tried to put some big doors so it doesn't look stupid with them driving right into the side of the building. So secondary buildings, the plastic storage. Basically, I wanted to get these water tanks in back here first, and then I started putting together this little functioning industry building. And I decided I was going to cover that building. It was going to keep the look. I like the look of the building. So, again, I brought in my special little water tank and ended up covering most of that building with it. Again, here I'm trying to make it so that these are all functional industries underneath here. I mean, it's easy to do this with the service cubes underneath, but it's, to actually take some of the in-game buildings so people can recognize them, even though they're covered completely with with these rusty pieces and buildings and things like that. And now we're doing the big smokestacks. I brought in another building here, another big factory. And this time I just turned it into a procedural object because it was unnecessary to have it functioning. And I wanted it to be bigger, so I scaled it up so that the smokestack was much bigger. So now I've got all of these little things sticking up everywhere. All these little, whatever you want to call them. Just everything sticking up all over the place. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I like that. So I decided to even put more stuff on the roof. So you'll be seeing me putting more stuff up here. So there I go, covering the smokestack with a smokestack. I don't like so much that red and white smokestack. So bringing in the concrete, one that I've used elsewhere, seemed to be a really good idea. Sort of sticks to the theme of the city overall. Now you can see here's sort of what it looks like when I'm finished with it. I brought in some of those yellow pipes for the roof. Put a big logo up there for the Maximus Corporation. So here's some more secondary buildings, the refinery building. So I moved this building from another area, the refinery, and decided to use one of these big rusty sheds or warehouse buildings on it. And sort of build it up to, have this look that you're seeing right here, but to be a different shape. I'm bringing over parts of it, shrinking parts of the roof, and then I'm going to end up covering these tanks again, of course. Getting them exactly the right size, and you can still have that tube coming around their side. Or smokestack work. I wanted to cover some of these things on the roof, so I'm going to bring a vent in here for this one. Get it covered up, and then on the other side I'm going to use a tiny shed to make like a little roof access. So I made another one that's a duplicate of this off to the right that you'll see here. And then behind it, I put a big water tower in there. All right, so oil's limited. So I took one of these buildings that I really liked and wanted to keep it as a functional building. And then I turned it into a PO and mirrored it. So half the building is functional and half the building is fake. So I decided I needed to have something up on this ledge up above. So I thought, okay, I'm going to put this up here. And then I'm just probably not going to do too much with it. But then I sort of got carried away, started working on this area. I brought in these, what they call 𝗘𝗍𝗟𝗃 buildings. They just popped up on the workshop not too long ago. And although they're not functional here for storing ore, I put some more in the ore area that are functional. So these are all procedural objects here with industry building blocks underneath most of these, except for the one main building. But I thought these just looked really cool up on the cliff side here. So here's where I wanted to add some smokestacks. Because these buildings didn't have any smoke. I think just having smokestacks looks really cool, and it gives a sense of animation or something that the thing is being used. So I brought in put these in over these little smokestacks, and then I brought in these tall ones, and this awesome smoke prop. So in the end, this is what it looks like. There's this animating crane that goes back and forth like it's lifting things up here, and another water tower. And you'll see there's some pipes on the front side here. I'm going to show you how these pipes get placed here shortly. Oil pipes. So I brought in some of the pipes from the water treatment area and decided I needed to have pipes running to these 3 big tanks over here, and then another couple of pipes running far across to a couple of the buildings on the other side of the facility here. So you can just see me moving a lot of pipes around here, just trying to get them to go over the road. And then I thought, oh, I got to get pipes up to the side of this, cliff here, and into these tanks. That would be really cool. So I brought, of course, all the pieces. It's like having a little, I don't know, what do you call it? Like a erector set or whatever they used to call them that the kids played with. Or like just a little pipe set. Maybe a hamster habit trail or something. But it was, I'm basically here just assembling pipes from all the parts. So then the pipes have to come over this edge, so you can see I have the turned the 90 degrees heading down. So it's a little tricky getting this pipe perfectly positioned and rotated perfectly. And it's not always super easy to work with procedural objects, especially close to the ground. But way up in the air here, you can actually get in and look from underneath and see, see a little better what you're doing. But when you're working with such small procedural objects, it's really hard to grab a hold of the vertices on them, the little dots, and to reshape them. I've actually found that scaling them really big, shaping them the way I want, and then scaling them back down has actually helped quite a bit. It's just a little tip from me to you when it comes to procedural objects. So I had the sun setting there, I completely forgot. Right, so I brought some pipes in here to make this little turn. And I'm really digging how these pipes are turning out at this point. And it was quite a few hours, I would say, of putting these pipes in. So then I needed to have a way to make the pipes, like, not rattle around or fall apart, like adhere them to this cliff face. So I start putting in these risers that you can see down below that hold up the pipe as it goes over the road. So I put them up here, and I wasn't exactly liking how they were not quite perfectly symmetrical. So since they weren't going to be perfectly symmetrical, I decided I was going to have some lower that, have them offset a little bit so they're not clipping through each other. So here I go, continuing with more and more of these little risers and trying to finish all the pipes off up here. So here's where I'm going over the roads to connect to these big oil tanks. When I originally envisioned the city, I was thinking that all of the water pipes would be above ground like this, and that the city would be sort of built where these pipes ran everywhere throughout the city and went over the tops of buildings and roads and in between things and through buildings and all of that. And after building the pipes here, I pretty much decided that this is it for pipes. I built them in the water treatment area, and that was fun. And then this was fun, and building them up the side of the cliff and doing something different with them. But I think I've done as much as I can really do with pipes at this point. So I don't think you'll be seeing too many more episodes where I'm putting in pipes like this. But I really wanted this to look. You've seen people do oil refineries and things like that on YouTube, and they bring in those network pipes, those ones that are sort of all together. They have like a, like you can sort of stretch them over terrain, and they have like a ton of pipes and already built together, like as one cohesive thing. I kind of wanted to do something different. I mean, I've seen that done so many times by other creators that I thought I've got to do something a little different. I want to do something a little different. I want this to, be all of the pipes here to be handcrafted. I mean, it doesn't quite look the same. Like if you go on Google Maps and you map like a oil facility, an oil refinery or something like that, you're going to see the pipes that are like those network pipes. You're not really going to see these giant thick pipes running around like this. But think about it in the terms of the future. If this is a post-apocalyptic world, or cataclysmic, could be anything. It could be a world war. It could be, global warming. Something caused the world to be like this. And, maybe they don't have the facilities to make tons and tons of these pipes in different shapes, and they don't have the ability to make them, to have tons of them, right? That we'd have some old stuff that they've scavenged to make some of these buildings, right? But they'd have like a couple of molds. If these were these are concrete pipes, they'd have only a couple of molds to make these pipes, and they'd crank them out, and that's what they would use everywhere. So here I'm running the pipe way to the far side of the facility so I can run it into this building, and then I'm going to run it in between two buildings here. There's a second pipe coming. And so here you can kind of see how the pipe ended up. There's a facility on the right here at the bottom of the cliff face that I don't have any footage of building. And then I covered some of the pipes there with these like metal grates. So here's the yellow pipes on the roof. I found these on the workshop. They seemed like they were pretty new, like they hadn't been around a while. So there's like 4 or 5 different shapes, and I just grabbed them and stuck them up here and resized them a little bit, turned them into procedural objects. So I was fiddling around here. I said fiddling. I was fiddling around here trying to get these to line up. And eventually, I think I take that out of there and move them around. But I wanted to get a little bit of the pipe right here to, grabbing pipes down below. Just to cover pieces of the roof, just to put some pipes here. I don't know, just for the look. So I don't do anything with the roofs of these buildings, like in terms of putting dirt or anything up here. Here you can see I'm going through, and I'm actually, as I go, I'm getting rid of these little smokestacks looking things that are on the roof, these little vents or whatever they are. Because these buildings are procedural objects, I just started getting rid of those, and I don't know if you'll see it on camera, but at some point I got rid of all of them. Yeah, these yellow pipes are now one of my favorite new props. Right here, so you're getting a pretty good view now. You've seen this camera view earlier, and now you can see all of the pipes and all of the finished product here, so to speak. This isn't quite detailed yet in this iteration here. You've seen it a little bit better or a little more detailed. So here's the Maximus tire. So I put this tire up here. It's a prop tire that I made really big, and I used one of these billboards to make the sign for the company. And then I, of course, went and got my trusty little letters here and made them bright white and brought them up here up on the roof so I could make it look like a raised white letter tire, like Firestone or some other company. But I thought, yeah, there'd be Maximus radial tires, of course, right? In the future, where tires would be and rubber would be almost a commodity to be traded. The oil comes in from out of town, from say Oil Town, wherever it comes from, and on the trains, and then they put it in the storage tanks here, and then they take the petroleum, they turn it into other products, whatever products that they make from oil, right? And of course, rubber is one of those products. So finally here, I think, is the detailing. I went around the town, this area, so I've got a sort of a look, like a theme almost that I'm using here wherever I detail. Where I put in this dirt, and I've got a couple, I turn it into procedural objects at times so I can get it raised and lowered in certain areas, or I've actually clipped it down a little bit so it doesn't cover as much space. I'm bringing it in here, and I'm just putting it in across all of this light-colored ground. I have had a few problems with it. Occasionally, all of a sudden, the decals jump up above my roads for some reason and cover the roads. So I've had to go in and highlight, get all the decals in an area and just tap, page down once or twice to get them back, at ground level. So I've had a little bit of a problem with them covering my roads. So this area, of course, is a very grungy industrial area, like the. So here you can see the procedural object one that I used to get in here. So you just try to get a little bit of dirt to be able to go through this little narrow space where I've got these decals where the train goes. So this is, like I said, this is a grungy kind of dirty area, and so I'm putting in some, you know, rocks that would be sticking around up through here, and I'm going to come back and do my standard trees. There's a little worker right there you can see, and there's a little worker spawner. So here's some of this more, you know, lighter colored, sort of more realistic looking dirt. I've been putting this along the walls around the town, you know, in the shaded areas, just it makes it look, I think it just makes it look better. So here's my grabbing of all of this junk. I've got rubber tires here. Since this is the Tire and Rubber Company, I decided to go a little overboard and just put tires everywhere. Here you can see that I've actually come in and put in these power lines and these light poles. You know, this takes quite a while to do that, so I didn't necessarily want to have all of that on camera. So you can see there's lots of trees and brush and you know, throughout here. Oh, I think here I'm going a little crazy with barrels. Oil barrels and tires. That's sort of what this area is about. And now to the junk. You didn't think you were going to get away with an entire episode without me putting junk down. And again, these 5 or 6 junk props are just the best. They're there's like a couch and like a pallet and then like an old mattress and just some of the best stuff. Then there's this little variable ones where it changes as you like. It just cycles through 4 or 5 different bits of trash. There's more of those worker spawners. You can see the little worker guys there. And you gotta finish it off by putting a bunch of old rusty cars in here, you know. So it's not quite, you know, the final thing that I do here. I eventually come in here with some decals that are cracks. And I just, because, you know, these big buildings would be, you know, sort of sinking into the ground, or, you know, this dirt would be very dry and arid. This is a very dry and arid area, so there'd probably be a lot of cracks in the dirt, a lot of cracks, you know, in the mud and stuff. All right, so here you go. Sit back and relax. The cinematics. Next episode, we're going to look at Eastgate, the little town that has sprung up just outside of the eastern gates of the town. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you'll like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.